Now, it's exactly 65 years since the discovery of oil in commercial quantity in OTUABAGI community of Bayelsa State. In part one of this story, Arise News correspondent OVIETEME George visits the community to find out how the people are faring since Shell Petroleum Development Company pulled out of the area in 1972.
Nigeria was largely self-sufficient in food production, with agriculture as the largest foreign exchange earner in the pre-colonial era.
In June 1956, Nigeria was launched into global reckoning with the discovery of oil here in OTUABAGI. It is famously called Oil Well 1 with a depth of 12,008 feet.
The first crude oil was exported in February 1958, initially at a rate of 5,100 barrels per day. OTUABAGI sits along the way to Ogbea town and has a stream that serves as a tributary to the Kolo Creek. The story of oil discovery is told by a peculiar generation.
We were
farming at a place called Location 1. The sound of bush clearing became louder, and before long, some white men showed up.
Woman, I like you.
Woman, I like you. The chorus was in unison, but we did not understand what they meant. Shell Petroleum Development Company did not do anything for us, the owners of the land, except payment of a penny for a head of cocoyam.
The happiness become ugly when we do. Then the cell say they go make this our place to be like where they come from, London. The elders of this community that time, na big ugly. We take so we go see that well one. Today, when you see well one now, you say tears. This one, I did one way I did 15 years, where they get this oil. Now this place come be like this.
Farming is woven fine into the socio-cultural fabric of OTUABAGI, an intrinsic quality of the people's core identity. The taps run dry in the community, indicative of a failed water project.
The people come to the stream and empty their bowels. Incidentally, it is their only source of drinking water.
Since we are drinking the river water, it affects the children and the women mostly, because most women, they are having cancer, measles, malaria, and other diseases.
We brushed past grasses in a rough ride through a footpath to an oil well location.
When President Shagari came and then laid the foundation stone for an oil museum project, the project died after Shagari returned to Lagos. And then Obasanjo came as head of state again. He came and then also laid the foundation for Petroleum Institute. The monument is there, he left and then it ended there. And as we speak, OTUABAGI had not even benefited one thing from Shell or from government to show that we were a pioneer oil producing community in Nigeria, West Africa.
The foundation stone for the Oloibiri Oil and Gas Research Institute was laid in March 2001 by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. But 20 years after, it stands as a beautiful monument of one of the failed promises of the Niger Delta.
OTUABAGI community is the goose that laid the golden egg. And as a community, a special development status should be accorded it. And I think that the funding partners and all those responsible should ensure and take practical steps that that project sees the light of day. And the Nigerian nation should know that they have continually meted down injustice to the community.
This is Oil Well 8 in OTUABAGI, and like the others in the oil field, it looks abandoned.
In 1972 or thereabout, Shell pulled out. they decided to also do away with everything that could make us remember that OTUABAGI had once hosted an oil field. Succeeding governments have come, we had cried, we had made press statements, we have addressed press conferences, but there is no listening ear. We will not be appreciative enough to you for coming to let the public hear our voice. Perhaps through you, one government will come to hear the cry of OTUABAGI people.
It is nightfall in OTUABAGI. The community is dark, save for solar-powered street lights provided by an interventionist agency. When will the light of development shine on the first commercial oil well community in Nigeria? OVIETEME George, Arise News.
Well, for more on this story, ARIERI correspondent OVIETEME George himself joins us now, and he will be discussing with the acting chairman of the OTUABAGI Chiefs Council, Chief Simeon Thompson, ARIERI. Well, thanks for joining us, OVIETEME. You just got back from the community of Bayelsa State, OTUABAGI, to be precise, to find out how the people there are faring since Shell Petroleum Development Company pulled out of the area in 1972. What's your overall assessment?
Well, I did say when I stood close to the monument there, for the Oil and Gas Research Institute, I said this is one of the failed promises of the Niger Delta. Now, this is replicated in other parts of the Niger Delta, the oil-rich region. What I saw was a people somewhat forgotten that some way, somehow, it is the goose that laid the golden egg. But water, as basic as it is, electricity, when you visit OTUABAGI at night, it is pitch dark. That was also highlighted in that report. I think it's just a sad scenario of a people forgotten by the federal government and also the multinational oil company, which pulled out in 1972. It's a sad narrative that is even difficult to tell. Sometimes I try to hold back my emotions. But the sad truth is that this is just a metaphor for other oil-producing communities completely forgotten in the oil-rich Niger Delta. It is quite sad.
Okay, OVIETEME, I feel your emotions there, but could you help us maybe delve into this a bit more investigatively? What would you say went wrong? Is it with the oil prospectors not doing the needful, or they're not being held accountable, or even when they tendered the funds to support the communities, were those funds siphoned? What really went wrong here?
You're taking me down memory lane, Ekene. The truth is, I wasn't born in 1965. And in 1972, when Shell pulled out, I wasn't born. But when I made some inquiries at various points in time, when the people tried to talk with the oil company, that's Shell Petroleum Development Company, I wasn't part of the meeting, but in their various conversations, they tried to handle the matter in a way that would seem like something would soon be done in respect to a GMOU that I never saw. That general memorandum of understanding is a big problem in the Niger Delta. Even when there are GMOUs, the oil companies do not adhere to it. Now, this is a culture of impunity that the federal government should handle. So I am not privy to that, and the people seem like the federal government should be the one arguing their case. But successive governments have come and gone. Nothing has happened. They remain in the same situation. So it's a sad thing that, as it is, I don't think the OTUABAGI people can hold on to Shell, to hold on to something to pin Shell down and say, you must fulfill your promises. Because if there were, probably it could have opened the floodgates of litigation. Now, I've also noticed, some 2 years ago when I did a similar report, somebody called me from Shell Petroleum Development Company, and he was asking questions. I said, look, I'm going to air that report the way it is. You have a right of response. If you think you've done something for the community, come out and state it in open text that you met your obligation or what you love to call corporate social responsibility. But I haven't seen anything yet. And that's how it is. The status quo is something that does not trigger joy or happiness.
Well, let's bring in the acting chairman of the OTUABAGI Chiefs Council, Chief Simeon Thompson, ARIERI. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you.
Can I begin by asking you, given the power of hindsight, what would your community have done differently?
Well, what would we have done differently? After all, we are a peace-loving community, and we don't want to take laws into our hands. And even the succeeding administrations, they make us silent. They didn't want us to do anything. So we couldn't do anything. We are not a violence community than to continue to plead with successive government to see to our plight.
Okay, but surely, Chief, even without being an oil-producing community, just by being a community within Nigeria and the state, you're entitled to some basic amenities like light. Is there no one you can hold at the local government level to ask why OTUABAGI is still in darkness?
Well, we made appeals to all the authorities concerned, but it fell on deaf ears, particularly when we insisted that we should have a cottage hospital so that at least whenever anybody fell sick, we throw down there and have a relief. But it still fell on deaf ears. You go there, there is a cottage hospital, but if you go there, even paracetamol cannot be found there. So that is the sorry state of things in the community.
Mm. Well, not to tell the world your age, but I do understand that you are just as old as when oil was first discovered in commercial quantity in your community, 65 years. Surely something had to have been done. When oil was discovered 65 years ago, what was the promise made to you?
We are, by then we are naked. We used to see Land Rovers move around. We run after them like that. We were thinking that, that was how the whole thing, the war would end up. All of us would become like heaven on earth. But by and large, as years goes by, we still see the sorry state of the economy. The oil, the exploration, the exploitation has damaged the whole of the economy. Staple foods like cocoyam has gone on extinction. And so we begin to live in that sorry state. Nothing improved. It really was a disappointment to those of us who are growing.
Okay,
Thank you.
I just want to ask the question I asked to my colleague earlier, because some people have alleged that even when funds were made available, they were siphoned or embezzled. There's reference to 13% of derivation funds apparently being embezzled by the Niger Delta governors. Can you shine any light on this at all?
Funds, those of us at the community level, we are not aware. We don't even know anything about movement of funds, because even at the state government level, I think some organizations were fighting for the control of funds for oil-producing areas, but yet we've not gotten anything yet. Recently, we had one organization or so has come to the community to solicit for support that they are fighting for ecological funds and so on. But all these things, we don't see them. We don't see them, and each time we try to raise alarm, nobody gives a listening ear. So we've been battling and living with that sorry state all these years. Thank you.
And who does OTUABAGI community blame for all of this?
We blame the state government. We blame the Shell, all the oil companies that have operated there. Right now, they will tell us the oil wells have dried up. So you don't hold anybody to ask questions. Because if you go there, they will say nothing is on ground. Even the common contract of cutting grasses, you can't get. So, and when we ask one question, they will say Shell has taken over, has given over the ownership to ITO, and ITO, you cannot access them. So it's very fortunate. We've been living like that. We cannot lay hands on anybody. You complain to government, it doesn't, it always falls on deaf ears. So it's been very horrible. We've been living that kind of lifestyle.
It does sound pathetic. But could you maybe point us to anyone who has been of support? Because in the reports we watched, and just looking at the landmass as you were speaking of OTUABAGI, we were told that at least you have some solar lights, even if you don't have any other. So are there any groups that have supported you at all?
Yes, recently we have some interventions from NDDC. We've been having some, but most of the times the projects are always abandoned halfway. The solar light, of course, we had it from the NDDC and it's been helping a lot. If you pass OTUABAGI, we think the community has a NEPA light. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that so much.
Well, we
have been itching for such interventions, but it has not been forthcoming. We would have been grateful if we could. Recently, we had projects like the oil museum that is coming up. Others have come and did not survive. So we don't know this one that is coming up too. We pray that it will come to stay because that will be a leverage to the community so that the children in the community will have jobs to do. And you would even be surprised to know that it was just recently that we had a secondary school, just this year. All these years, all these 65 years, we've been battling on how to succeed, to go to primary school, other places, secondary school in other places. So you can see the extent of neglect. But we hope that with this promise that is coming up, things will be better for us.
Well, we do hope that the authorities are listening to your plight, and we're also extending the platform for them to come and give an account of why the golden goose that laid the egg has been neglected. Thank you so much, Chief ARIERI, for coming on Newsday. And of course, our correspondent, OVIETEME George, on that beautiful report. Part 1, we look forward to Part 2. Thank you so much.